As the epic conclusion to the original Star Wars trilogy, Return of the Jedi, 1983, delivered unforgettable moments, from the rescue at Jabba's palace to the final battle between Luke and Vader. But how much do you really know about this legendary film? From behind-the-scenes conflicts to hidden Easter eggs and surprising casting choices, here are 15 things you didn't know about Return of the Jedi. Before Return of the Jedi became the film we know today, it carried a much more aggressive 1E title, Revenge of the Jedi. George Lucas initially felt that Revenge gave the movie a sense of intensity and finality, fitting for the climactic end of the original Star Wars trilogy. However, as production neared completion, Lucas had a change of heart. He realized that Revenge was fundamentally against Jedi philosophy. The Jedi Code emphasized peace, self-control, and justice, not vengeance. Luke Skywalker's journey in the film wasn't about avenging the past, it was about redemption, particularly for Darth Vader. With this realization, Lucas reverted to the original title, Return of the Jedi. The decision came so late in production that promotional materials had already been released under Revenge of the Jedi. Teaser posters, trailers, and even some merchandise carried the discarded title, turning them into rare collector's items. Interestingly, Lucas later repurposed the Revenge theme for Revenge of the Sith, a title more fitting for the dark and vengeful nature of the Sith Order. Although Star Wars was George Lucas' creation, he had no intention of directing Return of the Jedi. Instead, he focused on shaping the story and producing the film. For the director's chair, he had an ambitious first choice, Steven Spielberg. However, due to Lucas' long-standing dispute with the Directors Guild, Spielberg was unable to join the project. Lucas then turned to two visionary directors, David Lynch and David Cronenberg. Lynch, known for his surreal and psychological storytelling, met with Lucas but ultimately declined, preferring to work on Dune instead. Cronenberg, famous for his body horror films, also passed, opting to direct Videodrome. With his top candidates out, Lucas made an unexpected choice, Richard Marquand, a Welsh director with little experience in large-scale special effects-driven films. While Marquand excelled at directing actors and handling dramatic moments, he struggled with the film's technical aspects. As a result, Lucas remained heavily involved in production, frequently stepping in to direct second-unit shots himself. Despite the challenges, Marquand managed to deliver an emotionally satisfying conclusion to the trilogy, cementing Return of the Jedi as a classic. When Return of the Jedi was in production, Luke Skywalker's new lightsaber was initially meant to be blue, just like the one he lost in The Empire Strikes Back. However, when editing the battle sequences on Tatooine, filmmakers encountered an unexpected issue: the blue blade didn't stand out against the bright desert sky. With the film's action scenes needing clarity, the team decided on a drastic but effective change: Luke's new lightsaber would be green. This simple adjustment not only improved visibility but also introduced a new visual identity for Jedi weapons. Up until that point, lightsabers followed a simple color scheme: red for Sith, blue for Jedi. Luke's green blade expanded the universe's lore, paving the way for future Jedi to wield different colored sabers in later films. This change, though originally a technical fix, became an iconic moment in Star Wars history. The green lightsaber is now synonymous with Luke's journey as a fully realized Jedi, setting him apart from his younger, less experienced self in the earlier films. The Battle of Endor, where the rebellion takes its final stand against the Empire, was originally meant to be much different. George Lucas initially envisioned this climactic fight taking place on a planet of Wookiees, making Chewbacca's species a key part of the film's grand finale. However, as the script evolved, practical concerns began to emerge. Wookiees were already established as intelligent beings capable of piloting spaceships and using advanced technology. Lucas wanted the final battle to highlight the theme of primitive forces overcoming a technologically superior empire. To achieve this contrast, he decided to shrink the Wookiees down, creating an entirely new species, the Ewoks. The change was also influenced by financial considerations. Filming a large number of full-sized Wookiees would have been far more expensive than using shorter actors in fur-covered suits. Additionally, Ewoks had stronger toy market potential, making them a commercially attractive choice. Though some fans saw them as too childish, Ewoks became a defining part of Return of the Jedi, proving that sometimes, even the smallest creatures can help change the course of galactic history. By the time Return of the Jedi was in production, Star Wars had become a global phenomenon, and fans were eager to get any glimpse of the final chapter. To prevent leaks and maintain secrecy, George Lucas and his team came up with an elaborate cover story. They disguised the film under the fake title Blue Harvest, complete with the tagline, "Horror Beyond Imagination." This fake title wasn't just for fun, it served a real purpose. Vendors and landowners often raised prices when they knew Hollywood productions were involved, especially for a franchise as massive as Star Wars. By presenting themselves as a small, independent horror film, the production team was able to secure locations without inflated costs. The secrecy extended beyond paperwork. Cast and crew members were given Blue Harvest hats and shirts, and even local businesses believed they were hosting a low-budget horror movie. The deception was so well executed that Blue Harvest has since become a legendary inside joke among Star Wars fans, even inspiring a Family Guy parody of Return of the Jedi under the same name. Unlike his co-stars Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford wasn't contractually obligated to return for Return of the Jedi. By the early 1980s, Ford's star had risen significantly, thanks to Raiders of the Lost Arkansas. With his growing popularity, there was real uncertainty about whether Han Solo would make it to the final film. When Ford did agree to return, he had one condition: he wanted Han Solo to die. He felt that Solo's character arc had reached its peak and that a heroic self-sacrifice would add emotional weight to the story. His idea? Han would die during the raid on the Imperial base, shocking the audience and raising the stakes for the rebellion. George Lucas, however, refused. He believed that Star Wars was ultimately a fairy tale adventure, and killing off a major hero would be too dark. There was also a practical reason: Han Solo toys were incredibly popular, and Lucas didn't want to risk hurting merchandise sales. While Ford didn't get his wish in 1983, he finally got closure decades later in The Force Awakens, where Han Solo met the fate Ford had originally envisioned, going out in a dramatic and emotional final moment. Like any major film, Return of the Jedi had several scenes that were filmed but ultimately left on the cutting room floor. Some of these deleted moments could have added even more depth to the story, while others were removed for pacing reasons. One of the most intriguing lost scenes involved Darth Vader reaching out to Luke through the Force. In this moment, filmed but never fully realized, Vader sits in his meditation chamber aboard the Death Star, attempting to telepathically communicate with his son, urging him to embrace the dark side. Meanwhile, Luke, hiding in a cave on Tatooine, senses his father's call but resists it. This eerie, psychological exchange would have foreshadowed their final confrontation in a powerful way. Another significant scene removed from the film was an extended sequence following the rescue of Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt. As the group escapes, they endure a brutal sandstorm before making their way to the Millennium Falcon and Luke's X-Wing. This moment would have provided an emotional farewell between Han and Luke before their missions separated them. However, the scene was cut for pacing, as it slowed down the momentum of the story. There was also a deleted subplot involving an Imperial officer on Endor who hesitated to carry out the Emperor's orders to destroy the forest moon. This minor storyline could have added an interesting moral conflict within the ranks of the Empire, but it was ultimately deemed unnecessary. While Return of the Jedi was in production, a little-known side project was also being filmed, a behind-the-scenes mockumentary called Return of the Ewok. The short film followed young actor Warwick Davis, who played Wicket the Ewok, as he humorously navigated the process of landing his role and interacting with the Star Wars universe. Directed by David Tomblin, the mockumentary blended reality with fiction, featuring appearances from Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher. The footage included playful moments of Davis in costume, wandering through both the real world and Star Wars sets. One scene even depicted him sneaking onto the Millennium Falcon. Despite its charm, Return of the Ewok was never completed or officially released. Over the years, brief clips surfaced at fan conventions and special screenings, making it a legendary piece of Star Wars history. Bootleg versions circulated among collectors, but to this day, it remains one of the rarest and most elusive Star Wars productions ever created. While test screening Return of the Jedi, George Lucas noticed something alarming: the film's audio wasn't coming through clearly in theaters. Key sound effects, dialogue, and even John Williams' score were muffled or distorted. The issue wasn't with the movie itself but with inconsistent sound systems in cinemas, which varied widely in quality. Determined to ensure that audiences experience Star Wars exactly as intended, Lucas took action. He founded THX, a revolutionary audio certification system designed to set a high standard for theater sound. Named after his first film, THX 1138, the system ensured that films would be played with precise sound reproduction, delivering clear dialogue, rich music, and immersive effects. THX quickly became a gold standard in the film industry. The iconic deep note sound that played before THX-certified films became instantly recognizable, signaling to audiences that they were about to experience superior audio quality. What started as a frustration during Return of the Jedi screenings ended up revolutionizing cinematic sound, influencing the way movies are heard to this day. By the time Return of the Jedi was released in May 1983, anticipation had reached fever pitch. Fans had waited 3 long years to see the conclusion of the Star Wars saga, and theaters were overwhelmed with demand. Across the world, dedicated moviegoers camped outside for days, eager to be among the first to witness Luke Skywalker's final battle against the Empire. Despite competition from major films like Superman 3, Jaws 3D, and even 2 James Bond films, Octopussy and Never Say Never Again, Return of the Jedi crushed the box office. It earned over $475 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing film of the year and cementing Star Wars as the biggest franchise in Hollywood. Though some critics and fans later argued that Jedi leaned too heavily into commercial appeal, especially with the introduction of the toy-friendly Ewoks, the film remains a beloved chapter in Star Wars history. Decades later, its legacy continues, proving that the Force was stronger than ever in 1983. Bringing the notorious crime lord Jabba the Hutt to life was no easy task. Unlike modern CGI creatures, Jabba was a massive, full-sized animatronic puppet, one of the most complex ever created for a film at the time. The sheer scale and detail of the character required an entire team of skilled puppeteers working in unison to control his every movement. 3 puppeteers operated from inside Jabba's enormous latex body, one controlled his arms, another handled his massive head and facial expressions, and a third managed his slimy, wriggling tongue. Additional crew members outside the puppet handled his tail and other subtle movements. Coordinating these elements required incredible precision, making Jabba one of the most ambitious practical effects in Star Wars history. Despite the difficulties, the effort paid off. Jabba felt real, his grotesque, slug-like presence dominating the screen as he slithered and sneered. His deep, guttural voice and expressive facial movements made him one of the most memorable villains of the saga. Even in an era dominated by CGI, Jabba's animatronic brilliance remains a testament to the magic of practical effects. The Ewoks may have looked cute and cuddly on screen, but wearing those costumes was anything but comfortable. Stunt performer Kevin Thompson, who played multiple Ewoks, described the experience as grueling. The costume included a padded underlayer, a heavy fur-covered bodysuit, latex hands and feet, and a mask with rigid plastic eyes that often fogged up. Performing action sequences in the suit was especially difficult. Visibility was limited, movement was restricted, and the intense heat inside the costume made filming exhausting. Yet, despite these challenges, Thompson and other performers brought the Ewoks to life with remarkable energy, thanks to their backgrounds in gymnastics and mime. Their physical performances helped make the Ewoks more than just costumed actors; they became expressive, mischievous, and engaging characters. Love them or hate them, the Ewoks played a key role in Return of the Jedi, and their actors' dedication ensured they remained a memorable part of the Star Wars legacy. The original plan for Return of the Jedi's climactic battle was much different than what ended up on screen. In early drafts, George Lucas intended for the battle on Endor to take place on a planet of Wookiees, making Chewbacca's species a key part of the rebellion's final stand against the Empire. However, as the story evolved, Lucas made a major change, introducing the Ewoks instead. One of the main reasons for the switch was thematic. Lucas wanted to emphasize the idea of a primitive society using unconventional tactics to take down a technologically superior enemy. Wookiees, already established as intelligent and capable of piloting spaceships, didn't fit this vision. By creating the Ewoks, smaller, more primitive creatures, the contrast between the Empire's advanced technology and the Rebellion's unlikely allies became even more striking. There were also practical concerns. Wookiee costumes were large and complex, making it costly and difficult to film large-scale battle scenes. Ewoks, on the other hand, could be played by shorter actors in simpler suits, reducing production challenges. Despite some fans feeling the Ewoks were too child-friendly, their inclusion helped make Return of the Jedi a commercial success, proving that even the smallest creatures could play a role in shaping galactic history. One of the most thrilling action sequences in Return of the Jedi is the high-speed speeder bike chase through the dense forests of Endor. Watching Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia weave between towering trees while being pursued by Imperial scout troopers created an unforgettable moment of cinematic excitement. But how did they pull it off? Rather than relying on costly CGI, still in its infancy in the early 1980s, the filmmakers used a clever camera trick. The scene was shot in the redwood forests of Northern California, chosen for their towering trees and otherworldly feel. To create the illusion of high-speed flight, the camera operator walked slowly through the forest using a Steadicam. The footage was then sped up significantly in post-production, making it appear as though the speeder bikes were racing at breakneck speeds. Additionally, practical models of the bikes and stunt performers were used to blend real movement with visual effects, adding to the sense of realism. The end result was one of the most dynamic chase sequences in Star Wars history, a scene that still holds up today despite modern advancements in digital effects. One of the most intense moments in Return of the Jedi takes place above the dreaded Sarlacc pit, where Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Chewbacca are sentenced to a gruesome fate by Jabba the Hutt. But while the scene unfolds on the sands of Tatooine, in reality, it was filmed in the scorching Yuma Desert in Arizona, a location that brought its own set of challenges. To create Jabba's grand execution site, the production team built an enormous outdoor set, including the massive sail barge and an artificial Sarlacc pit. The set construction took weeks, and filming conditions were brutal. The extreme desert heat made long shooting days exhausting, and unpredictable windstorms constantly disrupted production. Cast and crew had to endure intense sun exposure, with temperatures regularly exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit 38 degrees Celsius. Despite the challenges, the scene became one of the most visually striking moments in the Star Wars saga. The combination of practical effects, intricate stunts, and groundbreaking creature design brought the Sarlacc to life in a way that still captivates audiences today. For fans, the battle above the pit remains a defining moment in Luke Skywalker's journey, marking his transition from an uncertain Jedi in training to a fully confident warrior. Decades later, Return of the Jedi remains a fan favorite, wrapping up the original Star Wars saga with action, heart, and iconic characters. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories from your favorite classic films.